joining the meetings. It's fabulous.
Okay, good. So Arnold's
Hello.
on. Arnold, how are you?
I'm good, Rudy. How are you?
Good. Barbara's on. I've got somebody here, LG. Who's LG?
It's my phone. Living good.
This is me, Mooney Aroni.
Oh, Mooney, how are you?
I'm good. How do I connect with you guys?
No, you're doing fine right now. I hear you.
Okay. All right.
I hear you. Cliff, welcome.
I thought you guys were gonna have a video thing, but this is just a conversation, huh?
No, it is a video thing. So.
Okay, I'll do it then.
Dennis Wong is on. Dennis, how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. Thank you.
Let's see who else we got. Michelle is on. Michelle, how's everything?
I'm great. How are you, Rudy?
Good on the other side of the world. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah, you're close at home here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Sean is on.
Henry is on.
Henry, how are you, Henry?
Very well, thank you.
Super. Steve Klein is with us.
Hello to everybody.
How you doing? And Denise is on. Denise, how are you? Denise got herself muted, but we see her. Mark is on. Mark is on the other side of the world over there. 4:30 in the morning. Mark, I hope you're wide awake over there. Who else we got on?
Yeah, Emmanuel just
wide
joined.
awake in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Manuel's on. That must be Bulldog. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, I was late, guys.
Did I miss anybody? I guess not. So say a few words for us there. Emmanuel, I see you on there. There you are.
Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome to our weekly meet. Incredible speaker. And I'm going to let Barbara introduce her, Rudy. And I'm sure it's going to be another inspiring evening. Just so impressed by really the lineup of speakers we have week after week. And I really do hope it inspires all of you to keep going at building a better place around the world. So thank you for joining us. And without further ado, Rudy, go ahead.
Okay. And so for those you drop in on our website, please know that, spread it out there with your friends and neighbors. This is open to anybody that wants to join us. And Sean, please share what we're doing here with other folks, and they can come to our meetings any Tuesday evening and listen on and see what's going on. And of course, going to our website and from there. So put that out to all your friends and family, and as we reach across the globe here to create peace in the world. Cliff, you got a second? You want to say something? What did you say?
Well, I heard LG, sorry, I forgot her name, say that she couldn't get video. And I'm wondering if she could call me on my cell or something, and I could work with her offline.
Okay, Mooney,
Thank you so much.
what's your... she was on there just a little bit ago. Mooney, if you get a hold of Cliff Gold, and Cliff... give out Cliff's. What do you want? Their cell phone number?
Yeah. The number is 510-378-8269.
Okay. I don't have her on here now, so that's where we are with Mooney, and I hope she's hearing in. If she can't, and we'll go from there. Next week's speaker is Dave McCleary. Dave is a Rotarian from Atlanta, Georgia area, and started the Rotarian Action Group Against Human Trafficking. So we've got Rotarians that are focused on anti-trafficking, anti-human trafficking, and we know recently a sad thing happened where they were trucking some folks across the border from Mexico in a tractor trailer. It got parked at a Walmart and overheated in that back of that trailer, and folks died back there. So that's a sad state, but also we know that children are trafficked every day in our own country and around the world. So it certainly affects a great number of people, and so we want to keep our thoughts and with that group, and I know Dave will have a great message for us next week. Without further ado, I would like to have Mark Fowler please introduce our speaker for the evening. Mark?
Rudy, thank you very much, and thank you all. Sean Murray is an impressive person who I believe has so much to offer to us in our world. I was lucky to meet her through her CPA and CFO, who just happens to be a client of mine. He thought we should meet because he felt that Rotary might be of assistance to her organization, and a valued partner with us as well. He's an attorney, an NGO executive, an activist, a social entrepreneur, powerful speaker, and the founder of Stop Stuff. By Stop Stuff, and she can beat me over the head later if I've said this wrong, but by Stop Stuff she means stopping all the things we as humans do that hurt ourselves and others, from gun violence to human trafficking to destructive family dynamics and relationships and drug abuse. She has dedicated her life to making a difference in our world. I'm so looking forward to our conversation with her tonight. Please meet Sean Murray.
Yay, thank you. That's so nice. Hi, everybody.
Well, welcome, Sean. I always feel happy when I've had a conversation with you. Usually the conversations I have with you are 30 minutes in length because you're doing so much that allows the world to see that they can make a difference wherever they are, no matter how tragic things happen in their life. So, Sean, I wanted to start tonight, and this is Barbara for those of you who are listening, with a little question about your ancestors and some of the people who have influenced you in your life. You know, I was reading on your website. Your website is fabulous, and it's stopstuff.org/US. And if you want to take a look at her website, you will be as impressed as I was. She's an activist, social entrepreneur, and she got all of this from her grandfather, from her aunt, who started Motown, from her grandmother. She's standing on the shoulders of so many people who made her who she is today. So, Sean, why don't we start with a little background? What motivated you to become this fabulous shaker and mover for the world that we want to see?
Absolutely. And what I just did was I went to my personal website because I didn't know we were going to do it this way, but my website actually does have some of my family history on it. I pulled this up. So, you know, from an ancestry perspective, my family legacy literally goes back to William H. Davis, who you see right here. He's my triple great grandfather. And he actually taught Booker T. Washington his ABCs. And he's the person who was the principal who educated all of the Black people in, I believe it's Charleston, West Virginia. Actually, on the site, you can click, if you click on that, it actually goes to his actual obituary. And, you know, he was buried in his Union Army uniform. So certainly in terms of what runs through my blood is education and empowerment and Stop Stuff, and everything that I do in my life goes back to empowering people, and it's empowering people in a multitude of ways. And he did it through education. And then my grandmother, her name was Rosalind Murray. She started the Michigan Institute for Child Development in the 70s. And she was a woman who was valedictorian of her high school, and got scholarships, but the scholarships didn't cover her books. So she could not go to college. So she ended up becoming a nurse later in life. And then at some point in the 70s, she just said, I'm going to open up these schools. And she had a vision and a mission around educating people by providing access and resources. And so by the time my grandmother died, she had 6 campuses in Detroit educating kids from first grade through 12th grade. And she took them on trips around the world. She brought in speakers and all kinds of things in her school. There were no pronouns allowed. Everyone was Ms., Mr., or Mrs. And, you know, it was really charter schools before charter schools even existed. And she had no background in education either, by the way. So I think that's important to note that, you know, if you want to do something, you just have to do it, and you can. And that's what she did. She didn't have the education or necessarily the resources. but she, was able to pull that together. And then this picture right here, this woman right here is her sister. So it's my great aunt, and her name is Raynoma Gordy Singleton. She died recently, and she's the co-founder of Motown. She's the person who signed signed Stevie Wonder to Motown. She's the one, this is Berry Gordy right here, who she was married to. She taught Smokey Robinson musical theory. She's the person who actually created the publishing company that was sold for, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it was. So that is, my family legacy. Even my father started off actually as a social worker, believe it or not. And my father is a business person now, but when he was in Detroit early on, he started off as a social worker, and people actually wanted him to run the Urban League, but he ended up going into the corporate route and then the entrepreneurial route after that. But I do, Barbara, as you know, staunchly I believe and I know that what I'm doing right now is literally my calling, my vocation. It is why I'm here. It runs through my blood. And while we all have free will, for sure, there's choice, but I know for me, there is no other choice than to do exactly what I'm doing right now.
Right. You're definitely following your passion. And that brings us right up to Stop Stuff.
Yes.
You gave up your legal career, your lawyer career, you were a negotiator, you were representing clients all over the planet. And all of a sudden, what's made you stop yourself and say, now I have to stop stuff?
Yeah.
Go, girl.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I have to go back a little bit because some of you know that I'm a 9/11 survivor. So being a 9/11 survivor, that's something that changes your life. It changes who you are. It really changes your DNA. I think that trauma impacts your DNA as much as positive things impact your DNA. So, being, and when I say I'm a 9/11 survivor, I watched that second plane hit the building. It was, as close to me as the ceiling in my dining room right here. So I could see United on that plane. I could see the windows of that plane. And it was very interesting to be outside with a large group of people who at the time we were just wondering what was going on. After that first plane hit, no one really knew that it was a commercial plane. And then to see this commercial plane coming and to simultaneously in the same millisecond recognize that we were under attack. That's an interesting feeling of community, it's like communal terror. And then, it was I watched people swan dive off the World Trade Center, and it was an 8-hour sort of stint of survival. I was with a 16-year-old girl when one of the towers went down that her mother was in. I was actually with a guy who was from Jerusalem, who was basically like, I know how to do this. I've been through this before, who was sort of like telling us, what to do a little bit. And there were really some instances that are coming to my mind right now of great generosity during that time when we were literally all walking through Manhattan. It was almost felt like a certain pilgrimage, and there were restaurants that were opening their doors to us to go to the bathroom and to get water. So it was really what it feels like to seriously be in a war zone. And that was just one day. So I know what it means to go through an experience of terror. I know what it means to go through the trauma, to undergo the PTSD that follows. And the best thing that came out of that was the absolute purest love I have ever felt in my life, which I hope that people will be able to experience without the trauma. And that love was being in New York City, and we literally looked at each other. We loved each other. There was just compassion and love and knowing and acceptance, and in a way that I've never in my life experienced before. And I know for sure that it was that love that actually rebuilt New York City. And so that experience is what pushes me forward, even on the hard days with Stop Stuff, because I absolutely know for sure that we can change the world. I have no doubt about that at all, because I experienced it. And then what happened was much later, I met Jerry Levin, who was the CEO of Time Warner, the man who literally created media as we know it today in terms of HBO Boxing, HBO, People Magazine.
Holy cow.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was fascinating. Like you're talking about 9/11 and we start to hear the sounds.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That was weird. So People Magazine, the Madonna book, everything. And so while this guy was at the absolute height of his career, his son was a school teacher in New York City, and his son was shot in the head and killed. And I met Jerry literally at the Hollywood Bowl during a Tchaikovsky concert of all things. And we had this amazing connection, and he told me about his son, Jonathan. And I always try to use his name to honor him. And I learned from Jerry what it means to lose a child to gun violence, and meaning that there is no recovery from that it changes your life forever. There's not a day that goes by that now is not, a loss that you have to deal with every single day. So when I had that encounter with Jerry, and Jerry is a mentor to me, and he's on my advisory board and my nonprofit board as well, I made a personal commitment to him that day that I would do something to stop gun violence. So that was the initiation of it. And then I tried a couple of different things through some publications that I wrote for, and through some political kind of things I tried to do with the Clinton Foundation, or the Clinton, not foundation, but when she was running for office. But what I realized is that it came down to me. It came down to that I had to make the commitment myself. And so about a year after meeting Jerry, the Alton Sterling shooting happened. And that was when a man in Baton Rouge was in front of a store, and he was shot at close range. And he had a weapon in his pocket, but he had nothing in his hands. So he was shot at close range in the chest, a couple times. I think it might have been 3 or 4 times, and they kept showing that on TV over and over and over. And for me, I cried. I could cry thinking about it right now. And when I saw that, I literally stopped every single thing that I was doing and made 100% commitment, my time, my resources, my everything, to doing what I'm doing right now. And I have not stopped, and I have not looked back. And for me, it's just, it's part of being human, and it's part of being humane. So one thing I don't want to ever be is desensitized to what's happening, around me or in the world. When we see horrific things happening, when I go through Skid Row, miles and miles of homeless people, that should evoke a feeling for all of us. And it's that feeling is what's going to ignite innovation, innovation, coming up with innovative solutions to change the world. And that's really what Stop Stuff is about. Stop Stuff is an innovator, and I am leading by example so that other people can also step up and be innovators. So our mission for the Stop Stuff Institute, which is the nonprofit, is to create 1 million leaders, activists, and social entrepreneurs to come up with innovative solutions to change the world, with a primary focus on the United States. And I know I've talked to some of you about that and why. I'm focusing on the United States because there's so much going here, and I love what everybody does in South America or Africa or whatever it is, but the kid in Ferguson needs a sponsor, the kid in Compton needs a sponsor, the kid in Watts needs a sponsor. And there's so much that needs to be done right here in the United States. We have kids that don't have food, that don't have clothing, shoes. We have, Chicago that has almost 400 murders, gun murders, to date in just whatever it is, July 25th. There are things here in the United States that are unacceptable. And I expect that Stop Stuff will go global, but my point right now is to focus on what needs to be done right here at home.
Thank you so much, John, for your passion, which just comes through every word that you speak. And I thank you for the United States. I think you're going to get a lot of support for that right now. Sean, you had a point of some of the things you're doing. Would you like to start with that now? Because that PowerPoint shows the kind of things that you're working with.
Sure. So you want me to talk about some of the initiatives that are going on right now?
Exactly. And that the stop is more than just hat. Stop looking at that's happening on the planet.
Barbara, you are breaking up a little bit, Barbara.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
So, Sean, if you would go to your PowerPoint, I think is what Barbara wants, and start walking through your slides, be great.
Great. So let me make it out of the way. So you guys already got the background, but so as I say, we're here to talk about two things: what we believe and building a brand to change the world. So what we believe, as you heard me say, is I truly believe that we actually can change the world. I believe that we as individuals have enormous power in what we do and in what we wear. That can change the course of our lives and the course of others' lives. And, you know, the reason I started with a clothing brand is because it's a statement of what we believe that you can actually literally like wear on your shoulders. So people can see that you believe in changing the world, that you believe in stopping gun violence. And by doing that, you're making a statement, but you're also participating in the process because 15% of the proceeds goes to nonprofits that are out there fighting on our behalf every day. And the reason I started with hats, and anyone who has one who has this, is that when you have it on your head, people, they see it and they want to know more. And it also invokes and incites conversation. So particularly when you wear this one, if you can see this, is with the gun, which is saying stop, stand down, stop gun violence. So when people see that on your head, at first they're kind of confused. They see the gun, like, well, what is that? And they're like, oh, stop gun violence. And then they ask you, well, what is that about? And then you end up having these conversations with people who, most of them will tell you that they have experienced gun violence somehow, that their child was killed, that their cousin was killed, that their mother's aunt was killed, whatever it is. But it brings that awareness to the forefront that violence is something that impacts all of us, no matter where we come from. Let me go back up here. There we go. There we go. So this is, reason this is here, because these are not my words, but so you see this young man here, his name is Anthony Nelson, and I met him through the Boyle Heights Youth Technology Center out here in Los Angeles, which is one of the organizations that we support. And when I met him, he was a music student. You know, he had his earphones around his neck. He was getting ready to go into the studio. He saw the hat, he liked it. I gave him one, and then I videotaped him. I asked him his thoughts about gun violence. And one of the reasons that that's important is because what I'm working on doing is giving volume to the voices of millennials and volume to the voices of people who have endured and overcome obstacles. And when you ask people, when you ask millennials, when you ask people who've been through stuff, done stuff, and aren't afraid to talk about stuff, those are actually the innovators. When they've been through it, those are the people who can help us figure out how to address it and come up with ideas that we've never even thought about. So this young man, I met him when he was 20 last October, and he was dead by December. Oh. And the young woman next to him in this picture, that's his sister, who I now know, and I gave her that hat that she has on because when he was murdered, she could never find his hat again, and he wore it literally every single day from the day that I gave it to him. And his 21st birthday just recently passed about 3 weeks ago, and she wanted to kind of stand in his shoes and help him celebrate his 21st birthday. And he wanted to be in Las Vegas. So she went to Las Vegas to celebrate for him. And she, as you see in this picture, she literally dressed exactly like him from head to toe, literally down to the socks, so that she could sort of let him kind of vicariously live through her. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that are going on, you know, every day. And I helped to raise $5,000 actually for his funeral because she didn't have the funds to bury her brother. And they were both in the foster system. He was not a banger. He was literally doing everything right, and he still didn't survive. So even with all that, we believe we can change the world. And Barbara knows this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. In one soul and your soul, there are resources for the world. And I know that there is no Rotarian that, or I'll say it in a positive way, I know that every Rotarian believes that, because that's why you're here and that's what you do as well. So people are our core concern. So our focus is peace, education, opportunity, prison reform, leadership, and economic empowerment. And we believe all of those areas, if we focus on those areas, those are the areas of concern that will allow us to alleviate some of the social problems that we're experiencing today. And this is actually all on the website if you want to see kind of how we define them, but it's rather, I think, self-explanatory. So interestingly, Stop Stuff is a social enterprise, you know, akin to Life is Good, Tom's, and Feed. Tom's does stuff in South America. Feed does stuff, I think, also South America and Africa. Life is Good, I can't really figure out where their money goes. I'm not sure about that one. But as I said, Stop Stuff is focused on the US. And the reason that I made it a social enterprise is because I want it to be scalable and sustainable. So, you know, to me, changing the world, I see changing the world as a business. And Barbara alluded to the fact that my background is business, finance, and law. So I'm a lawyer by training. I've run nonprofits. I worked on Wall Street. I had my own medical education company. I've managed a $50 million portfolio of musical IP. So I know business. And I think that those kinds of the skills and the resources that can be brought to the table through a business model are what is really necessary to have a quantifiable impact on change. So the various, and you see how I define Stop Stuff. Stop Stuff is literally I say it's the Viacom for social enterprise. And it's multifaceted and multisensory, because just like people learn in different ways, people can participate in changing the world in different ways. So I'm giving people different types of options, different ways to participate. So one is through apparel, one is through live programming, one is through social franchising, which social franchising isn't really that popular in the US. It's popular in Canada and the UK and even South Africa. So imagine having Stop Stuff franchises all around the country, where those franchises are actually focused on alleviating social issues in those specific areas, and that, you know, are particular to those areas. The Stop Stuff app, which is on the technology side, an app, and also crowdfunding, visual media, and then the Stop Stuff Institute is the nonprofit. So on the apparel side, as I mentioned, 15% goes to nonprofits around the country, and our goal is to distribute $500,000 to U.S. nonprofits over the next 12 months, and then to keep increasing that number over time. And every area, every division of Stop Stuff actually feeds that, so that we can continue to increase that number. Our target market is millennials. Millennials have a spending power of over $200 billion. But what's really important about millennials, and millennials really get a bad rap, is that they care really about two things. They care about being better people. They're avid consumers of self-help material. And I think that's something that people don't know. I didn't realize it until I did the research myself. And then the second thing is 74% of millennials contribute to nonprofits with money or time. So what that tells us is that they want to participate in the process. They want to contribute. They are contributing. And this is just a way to really make that pathway easier and increase and enhance those contributions. So as you see, we have, in terms of the logo, we have what I call Stop Stuff Bold, which is the world, because I feel like that one is, for some people, just easier to digest, but it's still in your face. And then True to the Culture, which is the one with the gun, and there's also one for human trafficking that I haven't shared publicly yet. That really kind of gets right to your heart when you see it. And it's very interesting, because that one with the gun, people either like it or they hate it. And interestingly, what I have found is that the people who are involved in that world, or the people who've lost children or relatives to gun violence, that's the one they want, because they want people to recognize that sort of harshness, because when you see it, it's something you can't avoid. It resonates. And Stop Stuff is about, you know, not allowing people to avoid what we all need to face, and not avoid the challenges that we need to work on. Stop Stuff on the world is a New Era brand, and for anybody who knows hats, New Era is the premier brand in hats, and actually it was a guy out of Chicago who owns the top sort of urban wear apparel store. He actually called the president of New Era and literally worked with him for 4 months and kind of demanded that this be a brand that was supported by New Era because of what our mission is. And then you can see here some of the people that are, you know, wearing the hat. Some of you might know some of these people. This is Smokey Robinson right here, who's actually a Stop Stuff ambassador. This is Rosario Dawson, who's an actress. This guy is one of the stars from Empire. This guy here is a world-renowned pianist. This guy's big in the urban music arena. But all these, mostly people, this is Public Enemy, you may have heard of. These people, usually they buy the hats and they contribute and they want to participate, so they actually send me these pictures or they tag me on social media. So as I mentioned about giving volume to the voices, and that's really just providing avenues for millennials to let their voice be heard, which is something that's really not out there outside of kind of social media. We're working with influencers and collaborators to increase the visibility of Stop Stuff and really to just make it cool, because the idea is we're making contribution cool. We're making caring about your environment cool. We're making caring about people cool. We're making, you know, saving lives cool and caring about kids. So, you know, there's something about Stop Stuff that actually is, you know, oddly enough, it's like kind of sexy, but like we're trying to make changing the world a sexy thing, a positive thing, a fun thing, so that more and more people will contribute to the variety of causes. I just skip by that real quick. Just scroll. These are some of the nonprofits that we support, which was right here. As I mentioned, my primary focus has been gun violence, and then I've spread out now into other areas, but these are all, at least primarily in the Chicago area, nonprofits that are doing really good work. This one, Father's Day Rally Committee, is actually in Philadelphia. What was that?
I think you're fine. Keep going.
Oh, I thought somebody had a question. Okay. And then, so back to what I was saying about things being multifaceted. So we're putting together right now what we call the Stop Stuff Vanguard. And the Stop Stuff Vanguard is a series of panels around the country in 9 cities. And when I say Vanguard, that means a Vanguard is who is an innovator. So these are people who can actually speak to what they are doing and how they have come up with creative solutions to solve problems. So it's really, you know, part of what Stop Stuff is doing is turning breaking news into great news. So imagine if, you know, there's so many people all around the country and the world doing amazing things, but we don't see that. We don't see that on the news. We don't see that in the newspaper. It's like kind of a rare thing, but I want this to become common. That we're like, oh, look at what Barbara's doing. Look at what Rudy is doing. Look at what Mark is doing. And then look at what, you know, millennials are doing. There are performers who are opening homeless shelters for women in Chicago. That doesn't even make the news. So what I want to do with this, in terms of particularly looking at the marketing dollars that the corporate world is spending, is this is an opportunity for millennials and those marketing dollars to coexist in a very different way. Millennials do not want to be sold to. They want to know, what are you doing? What are you doing for me? What have you done lately? So now you create this programming which is there to edify, to empower, to influence millennials and our motto is be yourself, change the world. So it starts with you. It starts with self-actualization. You have to know yourself, know your history, love yourself, be confident. Once you can do that, then you have the opportunity to move into your destiny, which I believe for everyone is to in some way, shape, or form impact the world in a positive way. So let's let the corporations use those marketing dollars for that edification. So now you leave this amazing program, and Barbara and Mark are familiar with this because you guys are going to be on the Vanguard panel, but we're starting to pre-register people. And one of the questions that I asked in the pre-registration is, when the Vanguard event is over, how do you want to feel? And they're overwhelmingly saying, empowered, ignited, enlightened, encouraged, all these they want to feel, they want to leave here like, wow, I can do this, and that's our job during the Vanguard, to make sure that's the experience people have, that when they leave that, they're going to be like, oh my God, look at what these people are doing, and I can do that too. And then let's have the corporate world actually pay for this. Let's let them pay for it. And then what happens is, so if this is sponsored by, Coca-Cola or Colgate or Crest or whatever it is, when you leave and then when you go shopping, you're like, oh, wow, that was Coca-Cola that empowered me to feel strong and encouraged about moving forward and doing great things in the world.
Love it. Just love it. Your passion is so powerful, and millennials really want to be part of the solution. And I think you've hit on something really powerful. One of the things that really resonated with me was when you said, let your voice be heard. Talk about that a little bit. How do you let your voice be heard with Stop Stuff?
Yeah, so you let your voice be heard by actually doing stuff. So that's what the thing, like when I say, you give volume to voices, right? So you give volume to voices by actually not just walking, talking, tweeting. I have a big thing about that. You have to actually take action. So, my background in the pharmaceutical industry is all about outcomes. So we have to do stuff that is going to result in quantifiable outcomes. What has actually changed based on what we've done? So when we put $500,000 out into these different nonprofits, I want to be able to say in 6 months or a year, this is what happened as a result of that. This is what we can tangibly see that has changed or at least progressed. So to me, having your voice heard is participating in a process that is going to move progress forward.
Sean, I have a question for you. This is Rudy. I want you to express a little bit about. There's been a lot of, I think, funds and talk about taking on some of these big issues, and I'm certainly glad that you're stepping up to the plate with this cause. But often we put a Band-Aid on the symptom, but we don't get to the root cause to be able to get our hands around that to make a sustainable change, a lasting change that fixes the problem.
Yes.
And so, in your view, and as you've reached around the United States here, and connecting with people to begin this Stop Stuff initiative, and what you've done before this, how are you connecting in each of these areas now to get right down to the basic root cause, whether that's the family structure, whether it's the environment they're in, whether it's what's being handled, what's being done to impact some of these issues out there, and certainly gun violence is at the top of that list. But what's your view on this, and how do we get to that root cause?
Sure, I think it's twofold. So one way we do it is by supporting nonprofits who are already successfully addressing some of the areas that need to be addressed. The other is through the Stop Stuff Institute, which is, our goal is to create 1 million leaders, activists, and social entrepreneurs. But in terms of really the root of your question is, as I say, it's be yourself, change the world. So be yourself means there's so much that goes into self-actualization. Some of us were lucky enough to be raised in certain environments, or even just be raised by certain parents that help to instill that kind of strength in us. You know, I was fortunate that I had parents who did that for me, and that I grew up in Connecticut, and then I went to Howard University. So I am very, very comfortable and strong about who I am. And yet I still say I'm a late bloomer. I didn't call myself self-actualized until 5 years ago. So, you know, it takes everybody time, but, you know, I think the focus of the Stop Stuff Institute is an incubator for leaders. So instead of having a tech incubator, it's a leader incubator. So how do you create leaders? You provide the guidance, the resources, the education, the history, the skills that can actually move people forward. So it's like really going back to, you know, Barbara was asking about my family and education. This is about education. It's an education in being yourself and an education in leadership. And that is, you know, obviously multifaceted, but I do believe that we can touch on the issues that are really important to get people into that foundation and understanding that the foundation is you. And, you know, as I say that out loud, I realize there are a lot of people that are drawn to that message because when I share it, which is very natural to me because I grew up this way, is that it's not anybody else's fault. It's your fault. So you have to accept yourself, and you have to take responsibility for who you are and take responsibility for what's going on around you. It's really easy to walk around and talk, blame somebody else for whatever it is, but we don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. There's no time for blame. There's only time for getting yourself together, and we're going to provide the resources to help people get together, and the knowledge. And, you know, I use this example, I've shared it with you guys in terms of Chicago. People look at Chicago and they think it's just a whole bunch of black kids just killing each other for just sort of no apparent reason. And the reality when it comes to Chicago is that Chicago was actually founded by a black man. And I can guarantee you that 99% of those kids that are killing each other don't know that. They don't know that the genesis of gun violence in Chicago started in 1919 when there were literally mass mob murders by Irish gangs of black people for 8 days that had to then be stopped by the militia that would send in 8 days later. A militia of 6,500 people had to be sent in to stop that violence. So the genesis of gang violence for black people in Chicago actually started with them protecting themselves and trying to survive and to save their families and to save, you know, whatever it was they had. And somehow that has devolved into just killing themselves. And I strongly believe that they just don't even know why. But if they were at least taught the history of where they come from, about how amazing, you know, life was for black people in Chicago prior to that, they'd be like, wow, this is amazing. These are my people. I can do this. So that history is an important part of learning, and it's an important part of the dialogue that unfortunately is left out of American culture and left out of American education.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We have a whole bunch of other folks online here tonight. We've got a good crowd. Does anybody else have any questions here for Sean? This is
Yeah, I have questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You know, in order, because I have a whole peace initiative, global initiative, and that consists of, can you hear me?
I can't. Can you hear? I hear a reverb.
Can you hear me? I know.
Muni, you've got a bit of an echo there, so speak closely into your phone, please.
Okay. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. You know, whole peace initiative that I'm taking in different parts of the world. And one of the pieces, in to have the peace, we need to go back to the base, you know? Number one is peace starts from me. And then we need to have wisdom education. And I know these people in New York, it's called Think Positive World. They have spent days and days and days and for a long time to put together a fantastic, successful program where they have made a positive change in a very tough schools in New York. Tough schools in New York. So I have also have energy programs to create energy, because a lot of the problem happens in the poverty level. So if we can maintain and erase that poverty, so we have hunger is gone, food is taken care of, shelter is taken care of, I think we're going to have less issues, we're going to have less war. So, but I need time to present my whole 7 projects for Global Peace Initiative. I have worked with people on the child trafficking. Again, it goes back to basics. The students need a lot of education. Students need education. And in order to have this education, we need people sincerely working, because the people that I came in contact with, I felt like they had too much of personal agenda of making money, and minimum goes to the cause, so that did not help at all. And see, that's me, my dilemma. So I don't have any my personal agenda, and I created this community of projects. There's 7 of them. I think this will bring a very positive global change. And global change comes, when you have a business part of it is taken care of. See, it's very easy to say, okay, I'm going to make a positive change in the world. But I'll give you an example about positive change, okay? I was able to pass 3 legislation in California, and I invested thousands and thousands of dollars, time and money, but I was a visionary. But the Vietnamese came into America. Nobody believed in me, including my husband who passed away. Anyway, so I was able to pass a legislation to have a manicuring test in California. And after the manicuring test was passed, they still could not find the job because they couldn't pass the test. So then I went back and spent some more money passing the test to have it in Vietnamese. But after this, the American salon don't want to hire them. So I opened the 3 salons in California. And today, 94% of the American nail salon is owned by Vietnamese. And this is called positive change. Because all these Vietnamese, they could be criminals of tomorrow. Since they have education, they have homes today, their kids are educated, and they have properties, so they're doing very well. So I'm trying to tell you, in order to solve this problem of, child trafficking, we need to go back to the basic of education. We need to go back to fund.
Right. And so do you have a question for Sean before we go to the next speaker? To the next question?
Go ahead.
I just really want to make sure we get every question in. Thank you. And I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I really appreciate you. And so we're ready for the next question now? Okay,
I think, Arthur, that would be you.
Okay, terrific. Well, it's a real pleasure to hear you. You hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. It's a real pleasure. I love the work you're doing. I love that in the middle of the stop, you've got the world globe, because we've got to stop gun violence. It's not just the gangs here, it's the gang nation states are gangs in the world using guns. So what my key thing, also, by the way, I went to the Duke Ellington School of Performing Arts in DC and lived not too far from Howard. So a sister there.
Peggy Cooper K. Fritz is the co-founder of the Duke Ellington School?
Yes, right. Oh, yes. Yes, she was great. Terrific. Yeah, that was wonderful. So I went there. So anyway, yeah, good for her. So anyway, my question is, I'm so glad you're using this marketing approach. I know one of the things my good friend T. Rogers, can you hear me?
No.
I was saying my good friend T. Rogers, who was one of the, invited me to a meeting where Crips and Bloods were coming together many years ago to make a peace agreement. And his whole idea was to take the gangs and transform them into enterprises, bakeries, take this incredible social structure. He said it was the most important social structure in the ghettos, and rather than fight gangs, we should be, lifting them up to something more powerful and positive. In any case, that positive part's what interests me. I mean, you have stop gun violence, but I almost want to see on the back of the hat, start change. I mean, change starts with you. And I'm wondering, in addition, well, I love your fantastic whole marketing approach, and what you're seeing being done in terms of empowering people, not just by knowing what they want to stop, but what they want to move toward.
Yeah. So that's really the creating the leaders, activists, and social entrepreneurs. So it is all about empowering people to move towards change and move towards innovation for change. And you mentioned something about the Crips and the Bloods, and this is really exciting. So anyone who's in the Los Angeles area, on August 19th, we are actually working with United Hood Nation. United Hood Nation, Arthur, is the organization that brought the Crips and the Bloods together for that peace treaty. So they did that about a year ago with, Snoop and the Game and all these people. And they're doing an event in August 17th, 18th, and 19th. And on the 19th, we're doing what we're calling a Stop Stuff Stand Down. And what that's going to be is 500 people standing with their Stop Stuff hats on, saying, stand down is a military term. Stand down, meaning we're asking people to stand down to stop, killing each other. And it's stand down, but it's also we're standing against gun violence, and we're standing for our brothers and sisters in Chicago in particular. And there's nobody in the country that stood up for Chicago other than in Chicago. And so not only are we standing against gun violence, standing for Chicago, but then in terms of the, as you say, the marketing or the proceeds are going to go to an organization here called Ceasefire, which gets to your point about sort of how are we changing things. So we're supporting Ceasefire, which is an organization that in Los Angeles County is literally out in the streets fighting gun violence on our behalf every single day. They train ex-cons and gang members, and they actually turn them into activists, or sometimes they're called violence interrupters. So we are not just standing for something, we're actually doing something by supporting the change agents that are actually working right now. So that's going to be, like I said, August 19th, and we hope as many Rotarians come out as possible. We want to really show a powerful, diverse group of people that believe in change, that are against gun violence. People all around the country need to know that we're all in this together.
Great. So is there anybody else that has another question here for Sean, please? Sean, how did you pick the name Stop Stuff?
Because it's just so easy, stop. And it's like, people are like, how did you, wow, that was available, stop stuff. And it just was. It just kind of came to me, and I was like, what do we want to do? We want to stop these things. And, and then Arthur, to your point, it's like you have to stop stuff so you can start stuff. And Arthur, just to be very clear about the world, the reason I have the world is because that encompasses everything. So we're not only focused on gun violence, that's one thing, but Stop Stuff is about stopping poverty, homelessness, human trafficking, child abuse. It's about all the things that we can collectively agree that we need to stop so that we can move forward in starting stuff or supporting things that have already been started to result in real change. And one of the things that we're putting in place right now is called Stop Stuff Nation. And Stop Stuff Nation is going to be a collaborative of nonprofits around the country who can become members of Stop Stuff Nation. And what they get by becoming members at a very low cost is that they're going to have access to marketing, social media, all kinds of resources to create awareness around what they're doing in one place that will give people the opportunity to donate to those organizations in cash, and also to donate their time to those organizations. So it's kind of like a collective crowdfunding that exists all the time. and they're members, but we're going to actually put our resources into doing the marketing for those organizations. And people will be able to go on to Stop Stuff Nation and say, okay, I'm in Los Angeles, but I care about Chicago. They can click on that, and then they can click on gun violence, poverty, human trafficking, whatever area they care about, and drill down into the organization that they want to provide financing for. And that is what the nonprofits around the country need most. They need money. I was on a phone call earlier or last week with 4 nonprofits, and one was a woman who has a nonprofit that focuses on workforce development. So everything from clothing to childcare to resume building to how to interview to what to wear, all that. She's unusual in that she owns a 17,000 square foot building, but she's been doing this for 40 years, and she had been being financed through state, city, and federal funding, all of which got cut. So now she has 17,000 buildings, and she's keeping it going by self-funding, but that's just a perfect example of organizations that need funding. And a number that I heard recently that I haven't corroborated, I need to research it, but someone told me recently that 95% of the money that nonprofits receive is actually from individual donors rather than grants. So that says a lot, because it means if you're focusing on grants, you might be focusing on the wrong place. Right. So I'm creating Stop Stuff Nation, so all the people who want to contribute can find the nonprofits that they want to contribute to and actually give them the money, because that's what we want to do.
Sean, I'm running out of battery. I'm not using my computer. So Mark, can I ask Mark to close tonight's meeting, because I have to close, my battery's dying. God bless you, Sean.
We've got a couple more people here. Al Jubitz is on here. Al, I'm getting feedback somewhere else from something else in your room, but go ahead and ask a question here for Sean, please.
Sean, are you likely to multi-level market this brand? Well, that's one question. I'm thinking of Uber, how small business people can get in the revenue stream. That's one question. Second question is, you mentioned a Stop Stuff app, and I'm curious what you're thinking there.
Okay, great. So in terms of multi-level marketing, I guess, from a street team perspective, that's one part of it. And the other part is that we have some initiatives that are going on right now where, like one of those organizations, Father's Day Rally Committee in Philadelphia, there's a guy who owns a boxing gym in Lake City, South Carolina, who, what I've given them the ability to do is they have their own code, so that if they can actually go out and market Stop Stuff items to their groups, so that they can actually, or to their people, so that they can actually raise money for their own organization. So that's actually happening right now. And then in terms of the app, which I'll try to give the briefest, but it's really exciting. So the app is taking the power of millennials and giving them the ability to engage and actually have an impact on policy. So imagine kind of a Snapchat-ish type thing, which is video-based. The reason I want it to be video-based is because then you have less bullying. You can't hide behind something. So an issue is identified, and the issue has to be something that is small enough that it can actually be addressed by policy. So in other words, if you're talking about, let's say, transgender rights, that's the overarching issue, but an issue that we can actually address would be transgender use of bathrooms in restaurants. That's something finite enough that you can actually say something about. So we will identify the issue. Along the line, I think issues will be self-identified. We'll have, in a Walter Cronkite fashion, somebody give a 2-minute video of what the issue is. Walter Cronkite meaning no pundit. This is just the facts, right? And then maybe a couple of experts that might give a 1 minute, no more than a 2-minute video of what is going on in the arena. And then to millennials, it becomes, okay, what do you think we should do about this? And we engage them and let them come up with their thoughts of what do we think it should be? How should we address this issue? And the editorial team is behind the scenes moving everyone towards consensus. So it's all about finding, consensus. And So that then, if we then at the end of the day, and it's nonpartisan, by the way, and by the end of the day, if we get 2 million people or 500,000 people that say, we think that we should have gender neutral bathrooms in public restaurants, then we now become, I wish Barbara was still on the phone, but it's like become almost like the UN. So now we take that information and we go to the UN or to the Restaurant Association or to Congress. And what it does is it literally, to me, it kind of brings politics back to how it's supposed to be in this country. I mean, the genesis of politics is that we, the people, are supposed to tell politicians what we want, and then they are supposed to represent us. So this is almost like a reminder of like, hey guys, in the Senate or in Congress, you don't get to just make up your own stuff and then put that on us. And millennials have so much power. Social media, anyone on social media, because there are millions and millions of people on social media, but it hasn't been used to empower people, and it really hasn't been used for good. It's been primarily used, for nonsense and really as some silly distraction. So this app is literally about moving people towards becoming more involved in the process, becoming involved in the political process. And I truly believe that it'll put us back into a place where we're focused on not politicians based on what party they're in, but politicians based on who are the people who are best able to communicate innovative solutions to change. So that's what the app is.
Okay, well, Sean, thank you. I know we're at the end of the hour here, and you really appreciate your efforts out there. We look forward to seeing you in LA. I guess that'd be August 19th, standing with the other 500 over there.
Yes.
In support of stopping violence in inner city and across the United States.
Sean?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Sean, thank you very much for this inspirational hour. What can we, just before we go, what is something we can do for you in this next window of time? All of us attend on the 19th, is that it?
Yeah, everybody, as many people as possible attend on the 19th. People go out, buy your stop hats at stopstuff.com so that you can have your hat on at the event. And even if you're not going to be at the event, as I said, buy the hat so that we can keep putting the resources out there and keep building this movement. And also, if you have or know of nonprofits who are looking for the types of marketing opportunities I'm talking about, I'd love to be introduced to those people so that we can start to pull them into the Stop Stuff Nation and really give them some of the marketing resources that they need.
Well, thanks again. I know Rudy and Barbara and I especially really do appreciate the time we've spent together and the time we've spent together tonight. Rudy, the rest is yours, kid.
Thank you again, Sean. This is Emmanuel, and I was very thankful to have you tonight with us. It was really inspiring, and I think it encourages all of us to keep working with each other and move forward.
Thank you so much.
It's you're doing some great work out there, and I know that we'll be connected with you here in the near future, and see how we can work more closely together on a couple thoughts I have in this arena, because we definitely want to stop the violence here across America and then across the whole planet. And so, certainly Al Jubitz, who asked you that, one of the prior questions here is focused on helping us stop it globally. And with one of those issues, eliminating nuclear weapons as one way. So a bigger issue out there that could destroy the earth in just a split second. So we've got plenty of work to do, no shortage, but we have people like yourself who are willing to step up and make a difference and dedicate their lives to creating peace in the world and bringing attention to these things. And we salute you for all of your efforts. And we're behind you 100%. And
That make me cry, Rudy. Thank you so much. This means so much to me. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. No, thank you. We appreciate it. And so, folks, we appreciate it. Please do invite people to be with us again next week.
Hello,
Dave McCleary's
Rudy?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say hi. I'm popping in. I couldn't be on because the Peace Committee from our District 5280 was having our monthly meeting, and we now have a peace chair in every club, and we're having a training for peace chairs on how to facilitate difficult conversations. So they're doing a lot of stuff in 5280, so we're with you.
Congratulations, Steve. Thank you. Thank you for that. So please, again, jump on stopstuff.com and do support Sean and her efforts here and efforts to create peace in every city around our country and around the world. And let's work together on this. We have a great club here, and we're getting a lot of initiatives brought to light. And let's step up and get behind them because there's some great work being done out there. And together, our strength is together, not separately. So as we work together in collaboration, we can get a huge amount done, more than any one of us can imagine. So thank you all again, and we'll see you on the air next week. Take care.
You, everybody.